Are you use your background?
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
Before we get started, I wanted to introduce, we have she's not a member of the public, but Dakia Hunter McKnight is my new legislative aide. She's listening in today. She's shadowing me.
Hi.
Hello.
So maybe before we start, or even before more people come in, maybe you guys could just introduce yourselves real quick so she knows who the Reading team is.
Hey, go ahead.
Me, you said? Hi, I'm Haley. I'm a policy specialist with the University of Delaware Institute for Public Administration, and I provide sort of staff support for the consortium, the funding and governance work group, and just all things communications.
Okay.
So nice.
Haley.
I'm Kelly Sheretz. I'm with UD's Institute for Public Administration as well. Haley and I work hand in hand with a lot of the Reading Consortium work, and I oversee a lot of the education work for IPA. Jason.
Hi, I'm Jason Burke. I'm with Delaware State University, and I do a lot of my work with the social determinants support group.
And you have a sweet cat.
Oh,
Yeah, he's decided to come to a lot of my meetings now.
Let's
Jerome,
see.
do you want to introduce yourself to, it's Dakia, right?
Yeah, Day.
Day, okay, today she is
Hi,
Tizzy's
Day.
Newman.
Jerome Lewis, I'm director of the Institute for Public Administration and a faculty member here in the Biden School. And I want to congratulate Tizzy for all her new accomplishments.
Thank you, Jerome.
Senate Whip, Joint Finance, and new marriage. Congratulations, that's all great.
White.
Huh? And I know your husband well, John.
Yes.
Great guy. So we work with him too.
Chris, you want to introduce yourself real briefly?
Yeah, hi, I'm Chris Kelly. I work at the Institute for Public Administration with Kelly, Haley, and Jerome. I assist with the funding and governance work group and help out on a bunch of other education policy related projects. So welcome. It's very nice to meet you.
Alexis?
do you want to introduce yourself too?
Hi, I'm Alexis. I'm an undergraduate fellow at IPA. Haley is my supervisor. So basically, I help with all the things she said she does, which is a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Brendan, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Brendan. I'm a graduate public administration fellow at IPA. I work with Kelly, and I'll be working primarily with the new settlement group as well.
So that's I think that's everyone on the staff team, our amazing staff team. And then we have, I guess as we go, I mean, we have some members of the consortium as well here. For those of you who are hopping on, I have a new legislative aide. Her name is Dakia Hunter, and she's shadowing me today to kind of learn more about the thing that is on my schedule so much and that I spend so much time on. And so I just wanted her to kind of learn who else was here. So maybe Matt, Aaron, Tika, And Aaron, oh, I said Aaron already. If you guys want to say hi to, introduce yourselves.
I'm
and then we can
Aaron.
Get started.
Aaron, I'm a CEO for Eastside Charter, but I'm also co-chair for the settlement committee.
Good morning. I'm Tika Hartsock. I am on a couple different committees, and I am also a parent for the Brandywine School District and educational diagnostician for the Christina School District.
Hi, Matt Jen, co-chair for the consortium.
Yeah. I love this group because everyone's so modest about your roles and your work, and we have an awesome team. So we will get started so you can kind of see where we are. Happy New Year, everybody. This is our first planning meeting in the new year. Sort of overwhelming. We did so much in the last year in the midst of everything, and I'm sure we will continue and do that again. So we can just dive right in and say, let's see. Oh, Jeff Mentzer's here too. Hi, Jeff. And Amy Gallagher's joined us, frequent contributor from the public. So, and Jeff, you can introduce yourself real quick. Day, my new LA is actually a product of Colonial. So,
Jeff Menzer, Superintendent of Colonial School District.
Awesome.
So let me think. I think I'm a member of the Funding and Governance Group, but I'm the co-chair of the Social Determinants Work Group with Ray Avery Jones. So I think that's my position here right now.
It is. And Day, did you want to introduce yourself real quick too?
Yes, let me unmute myself. So my name is Dakia McKnight, but I go by Day. I just graduated from the University of Delaware in criminal justice. I'm so excited to be working with Elizabeth Lockman during this transition, and getting to know her has been great. Everyone has been very welcoming. I'm very interested in education and public policy. So this has just been a great experience for me. I am a Colonial alumna, or however you pronounce it, but so I'm very interested in the work that we're doing here. So feel free to reach out to me and send me anything that you guys want me to get caught up on. And yeah, my contact, I'll put my contact in the chat.
Awesome. What year did you graduate from William Penn, Day?
2015.
Great.
So I think
I was your principal when you started William Penn.
Yeah. 20, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so what degree did you graduate with? What degree program?
Humanities, College of Humanities.
Oh, there you go. So you landed in that space then almost. So we're good. No.
Yeah. So
cool. Great. All right. Thank you for entertaining me and Day, everybody. So let's just get started. So the submission of our recommendations to the governor, any updates on that? I can defer to Matt on that. We did submit the recommendations to the governor and then afterwards to others to make sure that everybody had those and posted them to the website. And Matt, did you want to put any meat on the bones there?
Everybody's got them, including the governor. And so, at this point, we, I think it's another 2 weeks or so before he proposes his budget to the General Assembly. So we'll have to wait and see which, if any, of our suggestions were adopted and go from there.
Correct. And for anyone who doesn't already know, I'm sure a lot of you do, the budget address will be January 28th, Thursday, January 28th. I believe it's 2 p.m. Is what I think I saw most recently on the schedule. So pencil that in. The timing could probably shift slightly, but that's the date that we're looking towards. Okay. So work groups, focus and path forward. We'll just cycle through work group chairs or staff liaisons, whoever is available to speak to each one by one. So we will start off with the educators work group.
Hey everybody. So the educator work group, as you know, submitted everything to the consortium in December and is waiting to kind of hear where things go from there. There is also a meeting with DACD, and I can never get it right, but it's all the teacher prep and educator prep program representatives on Wednesday, where we're going to talk globally about Reading. Senator Lockman will be there, Representative Smith, Ray, possibly Roger, to talk just kind of what is Reading, where could we align, how could we possibly work together, or what could be some asks from that group. So
Yeah, that was a really nice meeting. Thank you, Kelly, for pushing that along. And I was happy to have that conversation just in preparation for that meeting. You know, they'll get to hear from us about what has been discussed in that group in terms of, you know, recruitment and retention. I think they're really interested in getting more specific about teacher prep. That may be a gap for them to step in. So I think they're just trying to understand what we have and haven't weighed in on, so that we can be sure to be, you know, aligning and informing each other, however that will be useful. So we pulled in Ray and possibly Roger, because as we were kind of dissecting what was going on in the different work groups, and Jeff, you can feel free to correct this or steer us on this, that there were some, we thought, teacher prep relevant conversations happening, particularly in that racial justice subcommittee of the work group.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there was going to be potential overlap. I think that in some of the conversations, it was a parallel discussion, and I'm not sure where Ray left it, but I do know that that came up. I don't have the in-depth knowledge of the conversation.
Yeah, we figured she seemed pretty in touch with it, and also because she also served on the educators work group, we thought it made sense to bring her along to help us have that conversation. So, anything else, Kelly, or any questions from anyone? Okay. All right. Thank you. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody else that's here. Okay. So yes, Delaware Association of Colleges for Teacher Education. I had to look that up too. I get confused because I think of the Career and Technical Education group, which has almost the same acronym. Very confusing.
and that's what popped up in my first search.
Yep. And that's what I thought it was at first, but we'll get it. We got it. So funding and governance. I don't think we have Namdi or Eugene this morning. So Haley, did you want to give us a quick update?
Sure. So we had a great meeting yesterday with Eugene, Chris was there, and Drew Sears from Network Delaware. And we met with 2 women from the Friends of Christina group, and we're in the works of starting an issue campaign connected with Network Delaware around referendum reform, because which is really exciting, because we sort of know that a lot of our work group members, sort of due to their positions, can't really push an agenda. So an issue campaign of actual citizens who want to learn about or care about referendum reform, pushing the issue, sort of grassroots like. Eugene was really excited about that idea. And we have 2 sort of devoted people from the Friends of Christina group who seem interested to keep that sort of momentum going. So that's sort of in the works right now, which is really exciting. Are there any questions about that? And Chris can add on too if he wants to.
Chris, any thoughts?
I think it's a good direction. Again, I think last time a big issue with the passage of the bill was there wasn't a lot of, I don't even know if it was community support, but lack of community knowledge. I think there was at least the opportunity to say people weren't informed when it hit the committee floor. And I think by doing this, at least you can counter that argument. And I also think, now I'm not sure how involved Haley and I will be. You know, we'll have to talk to Kelly and Jerome and get a sense of that, but this will allow that fight to continue through Network Delaware. So I think it's a good direction. And I think, you know, the 2 individuals that we met with yesterday are very passionate, very knowledgeable. I have a lot of confidence in their ability to kind of deliver on this. So I think it's a good direction. It's exciting. And hopefully there'll be some positive movement in this area.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I know this work group in particular has talked a lot about the public engagement piece and how important that is and how hard it's been to fulfill that. So I've been part of issue campaigns in the past, and you know, it's it's about educating people on issues. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are following through on that commitment. Anybody have any questions or other thoughts for funding and governance?
Oh, I also wanted to add, before break, I guess we were talking about, Namdi was talking a lot about redistricting and that sort of effort, but I guess it's just a little bit, sort of refocusing on that in 2021, but I guess it's still a little bit unclear of what the path forward
Right.
is around that, or if that's what the work group would focus on. So that just, I guess, has to be continued, like fleshed out.
Yeah, I need to touch base with Representative Chikwocha in particular, I think. So I've got that on my list. Is that an appropriate takeaway? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Social determinants. Jeff, you're here.
Yeah, I think we had a flurry of meetings and activity leading up to the full consortium body in order to craft the recommendations that we put forward. So we probably took a huge pause, and we are now just kind of regrouping. Jason, Matt, and Ray and myself need to kind of connect and set a path forward for scheduled meetings. There's a lot of work still to go on in that space. Despite, we did what we feel is a really solid job bringing together some recommendations rather quickly, the group strongly felt that the conversations need to continue to keep the momentum and energy focused, to provide further actionable items as things might come forward in this budget cycle that are actually going to happen. So we are really just probably going to start regrouping here in the next couple of weeks with respect to the meeting path forward. That's from my perspective. I haven't connected with Ray or Matt or Jason, we've been the primary group working through the scheduling and the logistics. So Matt and Jason, they might have something else to add to that, but that's just my perspective.
I think Jeff's got it right.
Okay. Great. Jason, did you want to add anything?
Nope, that's it. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, and last but certainly not least, our newest work group, our settlement working group. We have several folks here, but in particular, Aaron Bass, the co-chair, I don't know how to, whatever, the man for settlement. Give us a taste of what's going on.
No need to add titles. I'm just Aaron, but been great working with Kelly and also with Brendan and our committee in setting these things up, especially Chuck. Our first meeting is scheduled for the end of January. We're meeting on Mondays, and we're going to kick off with just a draft of a scope to share with them, and then also get some information about the settlement, share it with them, and then dig into what the recommendations should be for the Reading Commission to the legislature, which is the outcome we want to have hopefully by March. So we're excited.
Oh, ambitious. I love it. It's what's needed. Anyone else affiliated with settlement group want to weigh in? Anyone have any?
I am excited for this group to kick off. I've personally been connected and watched along, so I'm really excited about this moving forward.
Yeah, me too. I've had the pleasure of sitting in on the initial planning meetings. I think both of them. There might be some that I missed, but great leadership, and I think shaping up to be an excellent team on that working group, just like we have in all of our working groups. So it's important stuff, and I think the way that we are organizing that will be really important to the consortium as a whole. And I think beyond the consortium, it's definitely been of interest in some of the stakeholder conversations I've had recently. Okay, so I think we are set on work group focuses and path forward. It's the new year, back to work. Anybody else have any questions, concerns, or thoughts on work groups? Okay, so let's circle around to one of our favorite topics, some of which I think we touched on already, but our priority on public engagement, and how do we make sure that we are being adequately transparent, but also doing the work to outreach to impacted communities and make sure that's reflected in our work. So let me see. So Haley, do you want to help me sort of frame these questions a little bit? So sharing out work group information more consistently. I'm going to give sort of a just kind of set the stage of what we're doing across work groups. And probably it's not the same thing across every work group. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what we think, how we might be falling short?
No, I don't think we're falling short. I think
Okay.
it's just, this was more so about, we talked about a few different things. People had mentioned that if there were sort of private meetings, ways to maybe take notes about that and share that out at these types of meetings. Also, I put this here because Alexis and I are playing around with creating a newsletter for the consortium that would maybe go out quarterly or something like that, to just keep like all the work groups informed about what the other work groups are doing, maybe a little more consistently, instead of having to maybe go to the website and do the work themselves, to like read minutes or watch the YouTube videos, which everyone can still do, but maybe some sort of newsletter. And I wanted to see if people thought that was a helpful or good idea. So does anyone have thoughts about that?
About the newsletter specifically?
Yeah.
I mean, I think I tend to be of the belief to whatever, capacity we have to share out information, we should do whatever we can, whatever we have the capacity to do.
Haley, is it okay if I add something?
Yeah.
So like Haley said, we have been working on the newsletter, and I also, that capacity question I've been keeping in mind a lot. So I made sure to do research to see if a newsletter is even viable or even successful. And research shows that it can be more successful than social media posts, because people on our newsletter lists already show that they care about what we're doing. And also I would be doing a lot of the legwork for it. So I know the capacity is a big deal, but I do think it would be viable and worth the consortium's time. And just like WeX newsletter, so essentially continuing some of past successes.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Yeah.
I will say as a, sorry, no worries. As a participant, I often sometimes will go back in my email and just pull up the newsletter to get information instead of going to search somewhere else.
Yeah.
Right.
Good. It's a good reference. I think the only, and because my mind always goes, I'm like, okay, well, how could this, be better? I think it's a great idea. I think it definitely gets to our engaged sort of followers. I think that's important for us to do. I wonder if there's a way to build that list, I guess. I want to make sure that we're trying to figure out how do we push even further beyond that. Because it's great if we have, I don't know how many people we have on our list now, probably a pretty good amount.
Like 200 plus.
Oh, that's good. That's great. That's more than I thought. But how do we build that list with more people who will take a look, or even think about ways that, I know I recently sent out an announcement that was email based, but there was a way to kind of replicate it to text message so that people could key into it that way. It would just sort of happen automatically. I just had to add the numbers, and I wasn't sure it was going to work or anyone would respond, but I definitely got responses to that. So if there's a way to think about how do we make it reach people even more, because I know my email is a black hole. That might just be me. If I'm looking for it, I can find it, but sometimes things just pass me by. And, if there's a way to make it, I guess, more inclusive, and so that if we have folks out there who want to know what we're doing, but maybe they're more text-based, that we don't have to create a whole separate thing for them, but if there's a way to kind of have it touch them as well, maybe that's something to look into. Just because I know the technology is there, hopefully it's not a thing that costs a bunch of money, but just a thought.
I think it's helpful when we have it in kind of like several different places or modalities where people access. Because just as I said that, I often will access a newsletter from my email, there's some other times where maybe we're already in Facebook or something else and it's just a quick search. So I think having it in multiple places wherever the user goes to frequently is helpful.
Yeah, I agree. And having that and having it so that it's the one thing that you create that's being delivered on different platforms, as opposed to spreading capacity too thin by trying to recreate the wheel in every different platform.
I think sometimes too, it's what it looks like on a desktop and what it looks like on a phone might look a little different. So it would be helpful for the members of the consortium to kind of continuously monitor that and, you know, just check in from different of their own devices and just give feedback.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing some good stuff in the chat too, that the social media replication is part of the strategy. And Brendan, did you want to speak to that? Is that like a feature? I guess there's a feature. There's probably features in Zoom that we're not using. And
Right,
I don't know what you mean. Mm-hmm.
So on Zoom, we have the email addresses of those who log into the meeting. And so maybe it wouldn't be good to just put them on an email list, but if you put a Zoom poll in at the end of the meeting and say, would you like to opt into these emails? It's very easy to just go back and add those emails to a list.
Oh, that's such a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
And we have the Google form too that exists on the website. We have, would you like to be added to the email list? If so, put your email there.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, now that everything's so virtual, we do have the opportunity to capture with permission. And so I think being proactive about that is good. Thank you guys, it's excellent. Anyone else have any thoughts on that? The small meeting Google Doc, I know I have not personally established. Has anyone else established one yet? As I've always said, I still have notes. They're sort of on my phone or in my own little thing, and I need to transfer them. So no problem, Haley. So is that something maybe Haley, you can establish? I just want to make sure that it sort of lives in the right place on Google Documents. So I don't know that I want to be the originator of the form, but if you can create it, I can put it on my list to start to populate it.
I think that's one of the, from the last meeting, one of the things that I said that I would work with Haley on, and I apologize that I have not gotten back to you, nor Jason. I did see your email recently, but between like the managing the funerals and the deaths in my family and then the holidays, my goal is by this Sunday to get caught up on all of the things that I have committed to.
No,
so I will touch base with Haley.
Okay, perfect. So I would, yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting at. Who's doing this thing? So if we know that Atika, if that's you and working with Haley, that's good. Then I will back off and just wait for the notification that I can start moving things over to it. Okay, good. Thank you. And no worries. So sharing out work group information, is this sort of the idea that we talked about a few meetings ago, where it's like we wanted to work with the staff liaisons for each working group to make sure that we were maybe creating content for social media and I guess the newsletter so that people know what's going on? Because I know, Haley, you talked about you're doing a lot of the communication management, and you are closest to like funding and governance, for example. So it's easy for you to make content, but that we need to maybe have a structure to make sure that the other work groups are also giving sort of that consumable content that we can share with the public and lead them in.
Yeah, I think so. It's just about, because I can still sort of be the one that ends up creating it, but I need a little bit more context from the other work groups, especially social determinants, because I've been more connected now with the settlement group, which is good. So I kind of have that. But now I guess social determinants, I just need a little bit more. I can't like just write a Facebook post for my own brain. I would need a little bit more context from them, or draft something and someone edits it. So maybe it's connecting with Jason about that.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that too. Kelly, Jason, and I meet weekly. So I think at those meetings we can talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah, maybe just sort of have a deadline or a rotation of like, you need to deliver a chunk of content on X date and then go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. All right. Jason, did you want to give us an update on the video concept?
Just for people who are new, the basic concept is I have been producing short kind of explainer videos that I drop into online classes that I teach. and I'm getting okay at producing them. And so I figure we can do that same sort of thing for stuff related to the work of the Writing Consortium. I'm happy to put them together. And thank you, Tika. I'm sorry to hear about your loss. And whenever you're ready to come back, and join me, I'm happy to work with you. Anyone else who wants to be a part of it, wants to be a subject matter expert, explainer, whomever, I'm happy to work with you and just put that together. We can get them posted. So more to come.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or questions on some of our public engagement tools and strategies that we're working on? I think one thing that I might want to add to the list, don't yell at me, but I know we were establishing a pattern of, having a document to respond to maybe any open questions from a meeting and public comment. So I just wanted to kind of just remind us of that. And because we have, I think, since we initially did that, had at least one more full meeting, right? Where I'm sure there must have been some outstanding follow-up questions from the comments. So, that we need to maybe reestablish that, take a look at the commentary and suggestions and comments so that we can, do that again, put up a follow-up document on how we dealt with what we heard.
Yeah, I can get that. I'll do it the same format as the previous document, but for the December consortium meeting, I can start that and then send you the draft.
Great. Awesome. Thank you. I thought that was helpful. I don't know if anyone's looking at it, but but we know that we've done it and it's there and we're following through. It's really important. Okay.
And it's a good reference just for us in general too.
Exactly. Remember who, and it gives us, I think, to me, an organized opportunity to, reach out to the agency contacts on those areas and just continue to have those conversations outside of the meetings to know that we're serious about our accountability role. Okay, and so our next full consortium meeting date is February 18th. And I'm assuming that's our usual 5 to 7 timeframe. I think I had seen a note in the projected dates that's a JFC date. I'm new at this, so I don't expect to have that be a conflict for me, but I guess I should make sure that I don't end up having to run in late. Although if I do, Matt can always lead the meeting until I can get there. I'm sure I would not be taken up until 7 o'clock, I don't believe. So with Zoom, it makes it easy. There's no driving from Dover to Wilmington to get where I need to be. So that's helpful. I think we'll see about that actually. Okay, so there's that. And I think probably in coming planning meetings, we'll talk about some other potential, types of outreach we might be doing during the legislative session connected to our interim recommendations and things like that, but nothing set in stone yet.
And Tizzy, just a reminder, and Matt, that Haley sent you guys one pager that we need to whittle down a little bit to, that we had discussed. So if you guys could take a look at that. And
yeah, I did see it. I was like, this isn't one page.
There's a lot on it. So we could do 2 different things. So just, yeah.
It's like a 2 and a quarter pager. Yeah. Okay. So we'll whittle it down. Okay.
Yeah. Get it to like a front and a back or something. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be good. So pretty close to that. We're not too far off.
Right.
Okay, good. Any other questions on scheduling? We've heard from, our work groups are working on their schedules moving forward, and we know what our next report out date is. So hopefully that's a good benchmark for everybody to know that you'll be on the spot to talk about where you are on February 18th. Be here before we know it. Okay, well, being mindful of time, we're actually doing really well today. That's great. If no one has any other particular questions, I wanted to open things up for public comment. I know I see we have, maybe some people have dropped off, but we do have Amy Solomon Gallagher, who you've put a few great comments here. One just logged off, I think. But a few great comments here in the chat. So we'll just hold off just a second. I don't know if she will be back or not, but if not, I don't know if we have any other. Oh, there you are. Hi, go ahead, Amy. I was filibustering for you.
Thank you. And I had to log the kids on to virtual.
Good.
Yeah, what did I put in the chat? Oh yeah, so in the chat, I think that's great. The new Network Delaware group, that's really exciting. I belong to Safe Schools. That's an issue campaign with Building People Power. Shannon Griffin and Sarah Green are our co-chairs, and they're very active. So I also go to meetings for the Policy Institute with Simone Philpotts and Taisha Greer. And I would really recommend, when you're working with the referendum group, then to link that into the policy, both for one-pagers, which Haley shows up to those meetings and she could do the fact sheet. She's volunteering to do education fact sheets. And it would be just great to get, that group thinking of how, how they want to write that bill and what they want out of it. And I think the devil's in the details. So that would be wonderful. And that's all I put. So
You mentioned gears also.
Chat, I have, if you don't mind, if I just take a few minutes, is that okay?
Go ahead.
Okay, great. I just wanted to report what Safe Schools was up to. Again, it's a Building People Power Issues campaign. We've been pushing for COVID testing in schools, and what we got out of it was an antigen testing pilot in schools. Christina picked that up, and our co-chairs are working with the governor's office in the state to make sure that happens effectively, making sure that the schools have enough guidance and fact sheets to administer that. And we hear maybe Red Clay might be interested in piloting that. They're hoping to get 25% of students a week. And I think this is important just to keep schools open. My kids go to private, and accessing testing has been a vital part of making that happen. But of course, the parents and private schools have the resources to go to the free testing that's available. That's just not the case for kids in public schools. They can't get to the free testing when they need to dependably. So that's why it's so important to have the testing in the schools. In Safe Schools, we had a doodle poll ourselves, and I think what we might be concentrating on is academic support for students performing undergrade level in reading and math. It'd be great to work with the settlement group to get money towards that and their recommendations. Also on Black and Hispanic studies required for graduation. We know there's a lot of momentum around that, and we'd like to support that. And then continuing advocacy around COVID and CARES funding to be effective for the schools. This month, we're also launching website and branding. I'm working to deliver that for January. And so we're gonna have, a presence online and calls to action. And if Reading wants to, endorse us or work with us or link up with us for calls to action, we'd be more than happy to do that. I think Shannon Griffin's gonna try to have an ACLU funded kind of stipend so we could have a young intern to manage our social media. And we're hoping to use TikTok and Instagram. So, and we're really hoping to support, to push engagement ourselves, and calling Cheyenne Miller, who does the Homes campaign, and also Shanae Darby, who does Black Mothers in Power. They are all in the process of getting an online presence as well in the next month or two. And I think Reading could link up with them as well. And you could reach a lot of people. So that's Safe Schools. I am also it appears a one-man band for property tax reassessment. I know it's not something you're focusing on, but it's something I care very much about. So I'm meeting with people at the district level in schools and a commercial real estate lawyer that I know, working with my local representatives. And I might be pushing for a resolution to reform a committee to resurrect dialogue from the 2008 Legislative Task Force on Property Tax Reassessment in anticipation of an early April or May decision from the court case. Because I really want, I have a document I can share with Haley. It's a letter to Governor, is it Minor or Minor from 2008? And it's a great synopsis of what that task force conclusions are. And throughout it, you know, the General Assembly is vital. So, you know, it could be a slow burn, resurrecting some sort of committee, just a slow burn dialogue so that you guys are prepared for that decision, whatever it may be, because it has to fall, you know, involve the General Assembly in one way or another. There's no way around that. So that's that. I'm also meeting with different stakeholders in education at the different district levels, pushing them towards GEAR, which is a program that Rick Geisenberger has 3 people running. I think this is a way to consolidate on the back end the districts. And Rick likes this. He's like, yeah, you can consolidate it on the back end 90%, you know? And so I've met with Jill Floor and Yvette Sanchez Fuentes, trying to get them curious about GEAR and really pushing that as an advocacy tool. It's also come to my attention that the Office of Equity and Innovation does not have a budget. I guess it's only officially been in its new form for 6 months. And I spoke with Jim Simmons. He is doing the budget now. It might be around a $3 million ask. And in my experience, when you go from 0 to 3 million, that's a hard push within your own department. So I've requested a meeting with Jim to strategize as a constituent how I will be able to raise awareness for this need. And really, you know, not let legislators not give them that 3 million. They're starting a little bit late on the budget cycle, I guess. So it's really important to push that. And that kind of ties into my question if the settlement team is kind of looking at existing structures that we already have, like the Office of Equity and Innovation, about how we're going to spend that settlement money. I know that you have your own goals, but how can we push that money like towards that office to become part of that 3 million to deliver your goals, and work with Jim on his budget proposal that he's doing now would be a great idea, I think. Or how we use existing nonprofits like PIC, the Parent Information Center. I think Midra Surratt is one of our best education reform advocates in the state, and giving her expanded budget through the settlement would be a wonderful idea. And then it's also come to my attention that the DOE has an RFP out, and I can share this. And it was an RFP. It was hard to determine what it was for, but I learned that it was earmarked for specifically the University of Delaware's early education programs. Now, I only stumbled upon this RFP somehow through the APO website, right? It's not something that you normally have if you're not on that distribution list of vendors. And, you know, discovering this kind of non-transparent relationship between these kind of secret RFPs produced by the DOE that's earmarked for an institution, when that could be going to different local advocacy groups maybe, and that maybe that would be more effective. So it's just something that I'm investigating. Also related to the settlement, like how are we using the resources we have now? Like, are there just these like standard relationships that we don't really know about, where this money just goes out, and how are we tracking their effectiveness? And then I'm also pursuing an equity study in red clay. and I'll send Haley Adriana Bohm's report. She's on the Red Clay board, of course. And her last school report at their last meeting was excellent. And it tied into Reading. And I think she had a lot of overlap with Tizzy Lockman. It's just worth a listen to all the Reading Consortium members. And I guess the Red Clay board is deciding how to choose a student to put on their board. They finally approved that a student could be on the board after years of being told that it was illegal. Apparently it's not. And it'll be just interesting because I'm currently putting together a school board playbook that I'll have ready in the next week. And I'd also like to distribute that to Reading. I'd like to professionalize school board elections, both at the elections office level. I don't think that candidates are getting enough resources to be, because it's not a partisan election, they don't get access to Democrat or Republican databases, and the databases they use aren't very effective. And then also, it's not a very professional system. We're not really including people. It's the same people that run unopposed or don't run at all. So I'm just trying to raise awareness there. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
So Tizzy, if I may, I just want to comment on two things from Ms.
Yes,
Gallagher's statement. Colonial School District is also going to be doing antigen testing for students from the model that you were talking about, Ms. Gallagher. We've acquired 3 machines and have secured 2,400 tests. We are, like the other districts, are working through the logistics of that, as it does require at least one person, highly recommended to have 2 people running that equipment in order to perform the tests appropriately in the school setting. And that's something that has to be staffed. So I do know that Colonial, and I do know Christina is attempting to do the same thing. And I've not heard about Red Clay. So I just want to put out there, you can add Colonial to your list of school districts that are recognizing that's a value. The other point I just wanted to follow up with is at the December school board meeting in Colonial, that board did appoint a student representative to their school board as well. Colonial has a student non-voting member of the board who participates in the public session. They had their first session, joined us in January, and they are now, we do have a student. So it is, to your point, it is not illegal. It can be done. It just has to be appropriately structured. So
How did you guys choose that student?
We did not. The high school staff created a rubric, interest survey, an application process, a rating process, an interview process, and brought forward blind recommendations to the school board to vote on, accepting recommendations for candidates. And they just accepted the top candidate. And then the offer was extended to the candidate. And if the candidate accepted, then that was the person who is joined. If that person couldn't commit when they heard what they had to do, then they accepted the second recommendation, as they would be willing to take that student on, based purely on the recommendation committee from William Penn High School. It was a more of a kind of like a scholarship application process is the best way to describe it.
And I have a question about the antigen testing. I had a meeting today with someone from DHSS named Dana, and the rumor I heard was Christina was having to ask for volunteer doctors, because in antigen testing, you have to have a doctor sign off, and the Department of Health wasn't willing to provide one. So how are you guys working that?
So I can tell you that Christina did post a position, and it is not a doctor. It can be, from my understanding, it can be any person that can do this test. It does not have to be a medically certified person. Christina did post a kind of like a seasonal casual position where people applied to do this antigen testing. They did get applicants interested. They did offer jobs, and they were declined. They did not accept them. So they were attempting to staff it using whatever the posting was. I didn't see what was in it, but medical background was not part of it. In Colonial, we were fortunate. Part of our CARES money went to staffing each of our buildings with a certified nursing assistant to monitor our COVID cares room. So we are working through the logistics of making that part of their responsibility. So we have one of the bodies, we think, in every building that was going to be part of this work. So, but that's just that happens to be happenstance. But the way it was described, it could be parent volunteers to do it. It really was not described to me as a medical need to have someone with a medical background to do the antigen testing. But that was
it was described that like someone had to sign it off, a doctor had to sign it off, and Pescatore normally does it, but he's overloaded. So
that's a different conversation that I was a part of at the original spot, and I do not know where that landed at this point. Like who's certifying the testing for the district, whether it's now the nurse in that building. I have no idea where that conversation landed.
I don't want to interrupt you guys, but I want to be mindful of our staff's time and everything, and wrap up the planning meeting and let everybody go. And if anyone wants to hang out and converse, that's okay. But I just want to go ahead and close out our planning meeting and thank everybody for their time. I don't think we have any more Reading meetings today, but I'm sure we will be emailing and talking about all of the things that we have to get done. So thank you all. As always, again, Happy New Year and much to do.
Thank you.
All right, have a great day.
Nice weekend.
See you, everyone.